Hey everybody, welcome back to The Point. I'm your host, Noah Warren. Hope you're all doing well. It is Tuesday, February 14th. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there who celebrates Valentine's Day. Shamus Fillmore, one of the many loves of my life, will be joining me shortly for a fun chat. So Shamus will be by. He is very much all about love, so it makes sense to have Shamus on the program today. We'll get into many things, including the NBA. Going to chat with Shamus about some NHL things as well. There's a report about his Maple Leafs last week that I touched on last week about Kyle Dubas not willing to trade certain things to improve his team, and I want to get Shamus's take on all of that. Things happening in the sports world, so we'll get into a number of different things with Shamus coming up here in a little bit. There's also some rumors with some defensemen who are sitting out games, in particular Jacob Chychrun and Vladislav Gavrikov in Columbus, who are both going to be healthy scratches for the foreseeable future until they're both dealt or the trade deadline passes. So that's happening. We got some hirings in the NFL today. We had an all-time Calgary Flames choke job in Ottawa last night. So lots to get into. But I wasn't going to start the show this way, and I've talked about this before on the program, and I hate that I have to, but I just wanted to, give my thoughts and, feel thoughts, feelings, all of the above to the faculty, to the students, to everybody at Michigan State. There was yet another active shooter last night in the United States of America. It's like I've said before, it seems to happen every month, every 6 weeks, and nothing's done. You just hear 5 to 6 people are dead. Life goes on. Like everything, you need life to go on, but nothing changes. And then you see on news outlets that, well, it's horrible news and all this, and you see they will show on Good Morning America or Tucker Carlson, whatever you listen to, they'll show the funeral at the different location. They'll show the families of these innocent people that died because a person was able to get a gun. And again, I don't love to talk about politics, but politics interests me, and guns are absolutely a part of politics. It's a major one in the United States. I think it can be part of Canada. There's a petition right now to, I'm sure you all know, if you follow politics, you follow the news, there's a petition for guns and having the right to have them. I vehemently disagree. I don't think you should be allowed to carry a gun. I think it's very simple. The amount of people, anybody can buy a gun. And once you have one, you can kill anybody. It's as simple as that. If people need a sense of protection, go buy a bat. Go buy a bat, because guess what? You might be able to hurt one person, but that guy a foot away from you is going to notice it, can either stop it, or a group of people is going to stop that threat. Same, you need a tire iron to protect yourself, carry that around. Whatever, brass knuckles, whatever it might be. With a gun, you can kill 5 to 6 people before anybody realizes. It's that quick. And I'm not going to stay all show on this, but the thought for me to just say, well, I give my thoughts and prayers and not come up with a solution, not to have any programming on it, not to think about this stuff, it's a lack of leadership. And the problem, with the United States political system is you have, the Democrats, who are a party led by really an incompetent leader, and somebody that may say he wants to eliminate guns, but is he going to? Because the majority of the people, the reason he will is because the Republicans hate it, but at the same time, it doesn't seem to be an issue for him. He's got enough problems. He's got to remember cue cards. He's got to not mess up a script. So old Uncle Joe's got enough problems on that front. But then at the same time, in the same breath, you have this situation where the Republicans, who, I would vote Republican. You say that in Canada, you say you'd vote conservative, you are labeled as you're not woke, you're against, you're a horrible person. I remember going to university and I would talk about different candidates that I thought were good, and you were looked at as a villain. You were literally labeled as a person that didn't care about the social justice issues. And if you've talked to me for a second, if you've listened to me, you know how much I care about these certain things. You can care about multiple things and have different opinions. And unfortunately, on the other side, DeSantis, and whether it's Trump or whoever it might be that runs for the Republican nominee, they will be so pro-guns because that's Republican. That's, Miami, Texas, you got to be able to carry a gun. Don't tread on me. Don't take our rights away. Let's keep the immigrants out of our countries. That unfortunately is where things go. And it's unfortunate that that's our political system, where you have one party that loves to spend money prematurely and a party that will focus on social justice issues but not focus on the ones that are truly important, like gun control, which is a social justice issue in my opinion, because a lot of them end up being hate crimes and minority deaths. And then you have another party that notices the issue but will do nothing to stop it from happening, because God forbid you take a gun out of a person's hand. It's like taking a pen. It's like taking your phone away. I got my pen here. It's like, that's what it is. Taking a gun away is like taking a pen away from me. I can't write. You need your Glock. You need your AK-47 to feel safe. I'm sorry to the families at Michigan State University. I'm sorry to the alumni. I'm sorry to everybody. But I'm just a 24-year-old guy here from Rexton, New Brunswick. Unfortunately, I don't even got to worry about the political candidates, but the U.S. political system is far more interesting than Canada's. And you can't pay me enough to vote for Justin Trudeau and his incompetence. But you can look around, and our gun control system is way, way better than the United States. We don't have as many deaths. There are some, but not as many. Why? Because we have these rules in place. Because you can't just carry it around. Because if you want to be a hunter, you can get it. But that's not the way it works. You can't just carry a gun around, because guess what? You're arrested, which you should be. To think that in a society, this isn't the fucking purge where you can just walk around with a gun willy-nilly and feel like you can own the place. That's the United States of America. I don't know what that would feel like because what it ends up being is the people that don't carry a gun now are the ones that feel unsafe, which is absolutely the way it should be. The people that feel the need to carry a gun, you don't need to carry a gun. Nobody's coming after you, because if nobody had one, there would be a 0% chance of you getting hurt. But now the people that have the sane ideal, the people that see life for what it is, that don't need to carry a weapon around, they are the ones that are the most at risk of getting hurt. And that's not the way life should be. That's not the way it should work. But unfortunately, that's where we're at right now. We're in a position in the United States and North America where you follow any of these outlets, you read anything, you hear about a shooting, you hear about deaths, you hear about innocent lives being taken for the sole reason that people feel the need. It's their birthright to carry around a weapon. And whether it's Joe Biden, whether it's Ron DeSantis, whether whoever the hell wins in 2024 or right now, the Senate. Change this system. This isn't COVID. This isn't, I don't want to take a shot because that was such a divisive thing. This is about public safety. And if you need to feel safe, go buy a fucking bat from your local Cleese Sporting Goods. Go buy a couple of brass knucks from your friend down the road. Go down to the gym and learn and do some boxing. Go pump some iron. I don't know. Crazy world we live in, but I can't change it. I can only present ideas that I think would help. But I'm sure majority of the audience would disagree with me on that take, but nevertheless, I'm going to give it to you anyway, because that's how I feel, and it's my show. But let's move on. It is Valentine's Day, so let's try to be more positive. Let's try to spread more love in the air. Let's try to bring it to a better place here. And Shamus will join me shortly, and I want to get into a number of different things, but the Calgary Flames have, I talked about before the season how the two most interesting teams in the NHL to me were the Calgary Flames and the Florida Panthers. And they were linked because they made the big trade for Matthew Tkachuk, Jonathan Huberdeau, and both teams have been disappointing. Both teams, if the season ended today on February 14th, would be outside the playoffs. Florida's a point out of a playoff spot, but they played 56 games already. They're 57th tonight in St. Louis, Missouri. But last night, the Calgary Flames were in Ottawa, and Florida was in Minnesota. So both teams played. I watched both games. Let's start with the Flames. It's such a weird thing because every time, there's 82 games to a season. I try to watch as many games as I can. I try to watch as many teams. I pride myself on that, on being knowledgeable as much as I possibly can. And the Calgary Flames have been playing without an identity for the majority of this season. They were a Daryl Sutter team without Daryl Sutter players. Jonathan Huberdeau was never going to be a Daryl Sutter guy. He was never going to go to the trenches, work really hard, but Johnny Gaudreau fit the Daryl Sutter system and it worked. Huberdeau seems to have been miserable from the jump. Maybe it's just not going to work. He's in Calgary. It's freezing cold. I've talked about this before. It can be that simple. But he hasn't been working there. Kadri's been okay. He's starting to come around, but Jacob Markstrom has had a really disappointing season. But I watched last night. I also watched their game Saturday afternoon against the Buffalo Sabres where they completely dominated. And they were dominating last night. And you can look and say, well, you beat Buffalo and you beat Ottawa. Two teams that aren't very good, which, fair enough. But you also got to watch the totality of the game and see the way the team played. I saw a Flames team the past 3 to 4 games that played with work ethic, that played with structure and had the puck for the entire game. At one point Saturday afternoon, the Calgary Flames were out shooting the Buffalo Sabres 24-4. At one point last night, they had the same shot total against the Ottawa Senators. Whenever the Sabres got the puck, Calgary was there. And if Calgary is going to turn this season around, and this is going to be an interesting conversation because of the way it ended, the Calgary Flames are only going to win this year is if they win with work ethic, not skill. I look at Dylan Dubé, Andrew Machinapani, Milan Lucic, Michael Backlund. They're not going to win because of Jonathan Huberdeau. I've given up on him. He's a pretty boy. He hates the cold. I get it. I hate it too. And I know our guest today hates it as well. And then they end up losing the game. But I'll get into more of this chat. But let's bring on a mensch as they say in Yiddish terms, which is a nice guy. It's fitting that he's on today because he's a man that loves love. He's He's one with nature, one with animals. He's got a cat with him if you're watching the video. But let's bring in and wish a happy Valentine's to great friend, great lover to many, James Fillmore. Shay, how are you?
I hope I'm not your lover, but thank you. Appreciate the honesty. I'm glad I'm known as a loving guy. I guess
Yeah.
that's what I inspire to be, all in and all out. So yeah, happy Valentine's Day to you as well. And how's everything in your world?
Not bad. Sunny out. Nice day.
Beautiful day.
Yeah, beautiful day outside. It was nice yesterday.
Yeah.
Football's over, so that's a negative. But you got the Calgary Flames choke job. You got lots of other things happening, so lots to keep you interested in.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. So Calgary's giving the old one to you know, double wrister choke job to
Yeah.
themselves by not making or getting further and further away from that playoff spot. It's fascinating, right? Because at the beginning of this season, we were all, including yourself, it was kind of like, oh, Brad Tree living, like, look at the great moves he did, like in the
Hmm.
situation, and he brought in this guy, and he signed this guy long term. Oh, the Calgary, Calgary's going to be a competitive team for years and years. No, not happening at all. It's really really tough to watch, honestly, just because it is a Canadian market. You did thrive off them, even though they're not my team per se, but I know that they are some people's team, and it was nice to see the come up. But yeah, no, unfortunately, it's not looking like they're going to make the playoffs this year if they keep playing like this, losing to bad teams.
Hmm.
I don't have a solution really. Like you can only look at the team and say play better,
Yeah.
but it's on everybody. It's on the back end. It's on the goaltender. It's on Jonathan Huberdeau, like you mentioned previously. There's some highlights there. Dylan Dubé is playing, I'd say, fine
Hmm.
for what he gets paid. I mean, he's not an ace, but it's certainly for a guy who gets paid less than $3 million, he's sort of doing his job, right?
Yeah. He's playing well. I think Mangiapane starting to find his game because last
Kadri's not bad.
no, Kadri's been fine. I expected a drop off from him, and he has been, but he's still been arguably the best player minus Rasmus Anderson
Mm.
this season. I I watched them Saturday afternoon against Buffalo. No surprise to you. And I watched most of their game last night, and they dominated. They dominated the game, and I'm flipping back and forth because I'm watching the Panthers and the Wild, and all of a sudden it's 3-1. I'm like, okay, this game's over. And then I look and it's 3-2. I'm like, okay, I'll stick around. And then all of a sudden, Timmy Stutz, my boy, just carves them, and
Mm-hmm.
Ottawa wins it 4-3 in the last 5 minutes of the game. But this is what bad teams do. You blow a 3-1 lead in the last 5 minutes where you have no business giving up a point to the Senators. You dominated the game for the first 55 minutes. I said, Shay, this is crazy. Saturday afternoon, the Flames at one point were out shooting Buffalo 24-4. And at one point last night, they were doing the same thing to Ottawa.
Yeah.
And they only won one of those two games. But, I mean, Lindholm and Huberdeau have it mixed. Pelche is starting to find his game a little bit. But, I mean, how does a player get injured riding a scooter in Detroit in February? Who rides a scooter in Detroit in February? It's freezing. There's snow. I mean, come on.
Who's this again? I forget the
Rasmus
player.
Anderson.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna go on a whim here and say a few cocktails might have been involved, but who knows? Maybe not. Maybe
Yeah,
not. Yeah, yeah. Because they just lost to Detroit too, pretty badly, right?
yeah.
Because
They lost last week to Detroit.
nothing. Yeah, nothing goes right for this team. I'd love to just say it's a new coach or something, but it feels like Vancouver, or sorry, Calgary's become the new Vancouver, where they just blow leads, like you said, like left, right, and center. Everything's
Hmm.
just goes to shit, and there's no stability. And you don't think of like, I think of stability, and that's what I think of a real Daryl Sutter team, and that's just not this team this year. Last
Yeah,
year we didn't see this. We saw, if it was the one or two saves they needed, well, Mark Sherman's going to cover their ass. If it was, a good team play overall, well, they had the guys that could do that. Kachuk, definitely one of those guys who, on top of the high skill offense you see, can also be a team player at times. And
Right.
it's just not happening. And yeah, you got to look at Huberdeau and kind of give him some of that blame for sure.
Yeah, they're puzzling. The Sens, they're sort of in the mix, but not really to make the playoffs. They'd have to really go on a hot streak here
Mm-hmm.
if they want to get going. But they'd have to pass Detroit, Buffalo, New York,
Yeah, I've
Florida.
given up on them.
Yeah, I still think they should look to add at the deadline. I've said that before. I've been on that, but Jacob Chychrun is going to be a healthy scratch until the deadline or until he's traded. What did you make of that decision from the Coyotes, and do you see a perfect landing spot for him?
Um, a perfect landing spot, I'd love to say, would be
Other
Toronto,
than
but
your homer take.
what's that?
Other than your homer take.
Yeah, my homer. Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, the perfect spot would honestly be a team that would be competitive and going to be competitive for a while. I don't think Washington's a perfect spot because I don't see Washington being competitive for the next 4 or 5 years. I think there's going to be a drop off very shortly
Right.
after Ovi and Backstrom kind of fall off and they're gone, and the rest of the team kind of folds around that. Same with Pittsburgh. I can't see. I'd love to say, oh, Florida should just lap them up, like I've said all year, but Florida has had every opportunity in my mind to finally get this deal done and finally get a defenseman on the back end that they needed. You're right. I was watching that game with Minnesota last night and I'm like, oh, it's frustrating to watch Brandon Montour play that much because even though he can be a good player at times, I still feel like you can get an upgrade in that position that's going to be able to help you moving forward. So, yeah, no, if there's a perfect landing spot, honestly, Ottawa could be an answer to that because, like I said, there's
Mm,
going to be if they can find it, well, there's going to be continued success there for years to come. But they also have to look at departing with some of these pieces they've added: the Brandstroms, the Lassie Thompsons, the I don't know, Formanton, maybe. I don't know what they're going to throw in that deal, but
right. It was on Twitter today. They referenced Los Angeles, the Kings, because they are really starting to find their game.
absolutely,
They're starting to whoop people around the league. Pittsburgh, Sidney Crosby got tossed out of the game, so he didn't have to be beat up anymore on Saturday night as they lost 6-0, whatever it ended up being.
yeah.
They
Refs
beat
did him a favor.
they beat Buffalo last night handily. And the piece that comes to mind, if you're Arizona, you stink, you're not going to be good for a long time. You can get another young defenseman in the trade. Brant Clark is a draft pick of the Los Angeles Kings. Maybe you want Connor Bedard if you win that. If you win the draft lottery, Brant Clark was teammates with him at the World Juniors. He's 19, so you got him on a rookie deal. It's definitely a piece that you throw into the deal that is a first round pick. So first round pick plus that could be Brant Clark.
Yeah. So, what would you say to for straight up to Turkin? What are you saying? Like a first Clark and then maybe like a Turcotte? Would that spark you? Is that too much? Is that too little?
Hmm. It's. I think he's a good player. Health worries me a ton with him because he's kind
Right.
of not street clothes level, but he's close. But I think first Brant Clark, that's enough.
Right.
I'm not giving up more than that. I want to keep winning. I don't want to give up any more from my roster. And Brant Clark was a first round pick, and
Yeah.
you're going to get another first round pick. So that's two. You said they wanted two firsts. That's your two firsts.
Yeah.
So take it, shove it, and keep going.
Yeah. What about and this maybe is a far stretch, but what about Montreal? Does this make any sense for them? I obviously with them trying to tank a little bit, but I sometimes feel like they don't even want to tank. I feel like they have a lot of fight in their game. So, but
Yeah,
like to get him moving forward,
Edmonton looked like they were tanking Sunday afternoon against them, but
they wanted to get to their Super Bowl party, so they're just saying, yeah, we're not
right,
gonna let this get be close, boys. Just let it go.
right, yeah. I just don't know if they'd have enough to trade. Like, I don't know if they have anything interesting for Arizona.
Yeah, because I
You
guess
don't want to deal your first round pick. That could be Bedard.
yeah, true, true. Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine. You
And
could
that's
trade the Florida first, I guess. You could trade the Florida first round pick that you
yeah,
got.
that also could be Bedard. Who knows?
You
I
never
mean,
know if
depending
they
on how
win.
these next 30 games go. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm just trying to. I mean, it's interesting, right? Because it's March 3rd or March 2nd.
March 3rd.
March 3rd. Yeah. So I mean, we got some time. It's going to be interesting, I guess,
It's,
because if he's
it's 2 weeks Friday.
he's healthy, but at least we know he's healthy, right? Like if
Yeah.
he's not playing, they can't get hurt unless he's maybe taking a scooter around Detroit, I guess. Seems to be a common theme with D-Man.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, who else is on your mind? Like, there's got to be. I mean, you've talked a lot about Timo Meyer last week. I was listening here and there. There's obviously going to be a big ask for him, but in my mind, if he's not happy there and he wants to win, I mean, the GM is it Career? Is that who it is? My
Yeah,
Career.
Mike, you're in San Jose.
Yeah, he's got to deal him. That's your only option, right? So yeah, I think it's going to come to a moment where you're just going to have to give whatever's best for your team.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Mike Greer, he'd love to keep Meyer, but he knows he's got. It's not that Meyer would be a bad contract, but he's got so many of them already. Vlasic and Carlson
Couture.
might win the Norris when the team that missed the playoffs by 40 points, which makes me sick. But anyway, that might happen. I still don't think that's a good contract. Whoever trades for him, buyer beware. But you got Vlasic, you got the Carlson deal. Couture's is. I'd want to, it doesn't make you smile. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Let's go back to what you said. You said you'd love for Toronto to kick tires on Chychrun, and I wanted to talk to you about this anyway because I mentioned this last week.
Mm-hmm.
That Kyle Dubas had his little presser last week, State of the Union, if you will, right after Uncle Joe, and he said he didn't want to trade Matthew Nyes, the prized possession, wasn't really interested in trading the first round pick this year. And I left that saying, okay, what are you going to trade? Like, what do you have to offer if you're not willing to part with it? Like, second round picks. This isn't the NBA where second round picks are, just a plenty.
Yeah.
Teams aren't, horny for second round picks.
Yeah.
Tarasenko went for a first. That was a lot for me because I'm not a big Tarasenko guy. He's your guy, Russian, lazy. But
Yeah.
what did you make of that? And do you think he was truly telling the truth when he said it?
I mean, I definitely think that there's some truth to it. I tried to analyze what he would benefit from lying, you know what I mean? But at the same time, so what is he going to, you know what I mean? Now, what does he do? Does he trade Nyes? And then he's like, well, I thought you just said you weren't going to trade him. You know what I mean? So I think he really put himself in a stranglehold here.
Right.
But also, I don't think it's his decision anymore. Like, I fully think that even if they win the first round this year, and that's a big if, let's be honest, I don't think Kyle Dubas is staying. Like, I think this is his last year. I think it would be a miracle to keep him around because I think his contract's done, his expiring. But then you also have to look at the four big players. Yeah, I don't have to name them. Everybody knows who they are.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't like their contracts or if they don't like the situation they're in, they've 88 and 34 have one more year after the end of this year, and 16 and 91 have 2 more years.
Yeah,
that's a small window because guess what? I don't think Nylander is going to want. You think Nylander is going to take anything less than $10 million after this season?
The way the league's going, no, and I wouldn't blame him if he didn't.
It's a buyer for him. It's a buyer's league, and he has every right to say, "I want to make this much money. How are you going to make this happen?" And I can see them saying nope. And honestly, if they're with Dubas next year, Dubas won't trade him because he can't take any blame for anything that he's done throughout his career. That's why they still don't have any tough guys or major tough guys, I guess. No slant to Went Simmons, but yeah, I don't know. It's frustrating because I mean, it's like I said, I don't think Shanahan's going to give them the opportunity, but at the same time, why wouldn't they? Want to trade. Let's be honest. If we look back at history, Tampa Bay gave up a first, second, third, and whatever for Blake Coleman. Guess what? They went out and won, or at least they won twice. I think
they won both times with him because then he left to go to Calgary last year.
Yeah, so he won with him. If we look back at the Pens, what did the Pens trade for from the Leafs? They got Phil Kessel. Guess
Mm-hmm.
what? Phil Kessel was a key piece to both of their cups.
Yep.
So I mean, I don't understand not giving an inch because obviously it's worked in the past. I mean, there's some teams that haven't traded anything. I look at St. Louis Blues. They didn't give up much from their run. They just kind of had a lucky hot streak where everything really coincided for them. They had three really great lines,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, that's a pretty rare occasion. I think you do have to give up a lot in order to be even a little bit competitive, right?
Yeah, and for the Leafs, you talked about toughness, and I've linked, one of my favorites, Ivan Barbashev to Toronto. I think it's a perfect fit. I think they need Ivan Barbashev. If you watched, I didn't watch much of their game Saturday night because I have a life.
More important things to do.
Not really, but I was watching the UFC and other
Oh,
things. I was watching the waste management, but you had Columbus in town, which I'm sure was thrilling. But you got their bottom six; they're all the same. That Steves is playing now, and Joey Anderson, who might as well be Joey from Friends. That's about as much as he does. It's as good a character actor as he might be. Bobby McMahon. They're all the same player. They don't bring anything different to the table. I think Barbashev's a perfect fit for Toronto. I think it's organizational malpractice if they don't go get him. I'll even put that on Dubas's feet. I don't know what the ask would be for Barbashev, but I'm telling you, if Tarasenko's getting a first, Barbashev's a better player right now than Tarasenko. Tarasenko's had two shoulder surgeries. I get he's a bigger name, and people think that he's a big deal. Okay. But Barbashev, I think, could help the Leafs a ton. And if you're not willing to part with anybody, guess what? They're not taking Kerfoot straight up to do you a favor to get rid of Ivan Barbashev. So I don't see what else the Leafs have of value that to offer to really improve their team.
yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I mean, for Barbashev, and we may have our differences in what we see in Tarasenko and Barbashev, but one thing that makes a more attractive ideal for Barbashev is that his contract is much lower. So
Mhm.
if you can even get St. Louis to eat 25%, 30% of his contract, well, then you're still going to have room to make other deals, right? And to get other players in. Where Tarasenko, well, you can only eat half of his contract. Okay, well, then you're still stuck at like a $4 million contract.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I agree in that sense. Barbashev's the much shinier and much better looking asset. Put him on a third line. I mean, that'd be unbelievable.
Hmm.
That's you get him. My boy Pierre Engvall and
Yeah.
maybe Cal Yarncroc or somebody. Kerfoot would have to go. I think that's just a minimum, just because you need to
Yeah. You have to
get,
move
get
salary out.
you got to
Yeah.
move salary, and he's the first guy in my mind when it comes to that.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to give up, I think at minimum you have to give up one or the other. You have to give up first or knives, and then maybe you have to give up Liljegren or Sandin, unfortunately.
Would you
And I
trade Sandine? Say you did this. Say St. Louis call and Dubas might actually pick up the call and say I might want to get some toughness. I'll give you a Barbashev. You got to take Kerfoot. St. Louis
mhm,
will because they don't care. They're going to lose anyway. They're trying to lose right now.
yeah.
Okay, you got to take Kerfoot. That's fine. We want Sandine in the deal, and then Toronto maybe we'll have to throw in a pick or something. Maybe just to because Kerfoot's not an ad. It's a dump. So
Yeah.
Sandine and a third round pick to St. Louis, and with Kerfoot dump. Would you take that deal if you were Toronto?
Oh,
You re-sign Timmins. You
yeah.
got him.
Yeah, there's a big difference between Timmins and Sandine, but yeah, no, I mean, at the end of the day, if I guess you can work around trying to get another defenseman on at the you're trading cap for cap there because they both have the same cap hit, I believe, with Kerfoot and Barbashev. But yeah, I would take that deal. That way, you're not giving your first. You have knives. You can make some more adjustments. I don't know. I'm bothered by him saying that he wouldn't trade those two things because it's just tying your hands to a team that I don't think is going to be able to get past a Tampa or, God forbid, a Boston in the second round. So,
I
like,
also
what
think
are you
it's
trying to
really
accomplish?
unfair to Nyes to just assume he's going to be great the second he comes into the league.
Yeah, I know. He is a prospect, and that's all. And maybe that's all some teams will see him as. Maybe St. Louis is not even saying, "Well, we don't need this guy. We don't think he's going to be any good."
Hmm.
I guess that's kind of the mystery, and that's kind of the risk around taking any prospect. It doesn't matter if you draft them or pick them off through trade, but yeah, I don't know. It's difficult. I mean, obviously, at first you have your control. It's going to be if it's a Toronto first, you're going to pick what 15 to 20th probably.
You don't have a whole lot of faith in winning around there, bruh.
Yeah, well, let's pick on history here. I don't know. There's guys I would love to see in jerseys. I wrote a few names down.
Okay,
Evanston,
Garrett,
from
Edmondson.
Montreal.
Okay.
Love him. Good
Yep.
good guy in the D. Gavrikov, can't pronounce his name.
Hmm.
Obviously, he's being rested. He's going to be moved. It's just a matter of what they can get for him, and
Right.
I fully expect that they'll get a decent price for him just for his cap hit and what he can do.
Right.
Kulikov from Anaheim, he is what he is. He's a third pairing guy. Braden Chen, who I could also see being moved for his
Right.
contract playoff experience. Kind of a tough guy. I'd love to see him in a Toronto jersey once again, but we'll see about that. And yeah, like we said, Barbashev. I think Nick Bukestad will probably get moved somewhere. I think he's a big body. He's going to finish with 15, 20 goals this year. Not a bad year, and hopefully he can do the same in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, those are just a few names that could end up somewhere, and I think I hopefully one of those names will end up wearing a blue and white jersey.
Another name that I think it'd be tough to pull off, but this is a guy that's got term left, and he's a very good player because I know they hate trading for rentals. Is Lawson Krause in Arizona?
Mm, yeah, yeah. I watched a little bit of that Nashville game last
He
night,
can
and he
play.
scored.
Yeah.
He's got game. I didn't have a whole lot of faith in him in the beginning of his career, but he's definitely proven that he can be a player.
Yeah.
I yeah for Arizona it'd be tough to think to take him off the roster, but it's just because. Well, I guess not. I guess if you're trying to tank for Bedard at the same
They don't.
time,
They don't care.
he's helping the team. Yeah, I could see that. Maybe you give up Kerfoot and give up Kerfoot, maybe a pick. What are you laughing at?
Oh, this Kerfoot just throws in. It sounds like it's like a nice thing, but it's like an anchor.
No, it's not. I mean, we both know he has to go. Like that's the only way
Yeah.
you're going to make a move.
Yeah.
And then yeah, he's going to get in there somehow. He's sneaky
Right.
like that. He had a nice little pass to Nylander on Saturday
Yeah.
night.
Yeah.
I just show every GM that pick or that pass, and then you'll trick them into taking them. No problem.
Right. So you're a big Tarasenko to New York. You love that deal. I figured you would.
Oh, it's intriguing. Russians, they love their spots. They only have a few that they really want to go to anymore.
Right.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I agree with you when I heard your podcast on Thursday about him not being the same player. I 100% agree. He's not 2019 Tarasenko. He's had health problems.
Mhm.
I don't think the production's going to be there anymore. I think New York's thinking, how can we maintain this roster without giving up everything?
Yep.
It is interesting to hear Patty Kane say, "Oh, that's disappointing." That's
Mhm.
that means that he was seriously going to say, "Yep, like let's get going here. I'm down to go." But Chicago, it means Chicago was asking too much for what New York wanted to give up, right?
Right.
That's
Yep.
the only thing. That's the only conclusion coming there. And yeah, I mean, so for them, they gave up what little they wanted to get the most they could get, I
Yep.
guess. Because
Yeah.
obviously, I don't think I think they go to Timo Meyer first and they say, perfect, this is a guy we really want. Okay, we're not willing to give up the Zach Joneses, the Braden Schneiders, the Phil Petals, whoever else that they might have included in that contract. So yeah, I don't know. I know I heard your opinion on it pretty loud and clear on Thursday, so we don't have to
Yeah.
go back into that. But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see. I mean, at the end of the day, they needed help, a little bit of help scoring, I think. And these guys keep picking up. Capo Caco, I think, if he keeps improving just little by little this season, I think he'll be at the spot in this offseason where he can be effective again.
Eric Carlson. If you were the Edmonton Oilers, would you trade for him?
No, I wouldn't. I just don't see it as a good investment. You're going to give up a lot. You're going to give up Proberg, who I'm starting to love little by little. I think he can be better than a lot of their other D-men on their team. I just don't seeing it working because you're gonna. What are you sending back? You're sending back Barry. You're sending back Probert probably, and a bunch of other pieces to make this contract work. Unless
Mm-hmm.
you can get a third party to eat some of it, which I guess that's always a possibility.
Right.
But then your team's too offensively minded, and you don't have enough defense. That's just it is what it is. I said what I said.
Yeah, they need somebody. They
No, absolutely. And then, but like, do you go and get the Arizona goalie and give up? Maybe you can dish Campbell for something. You know what I mean?
So you're giving up on your guy Jack just like that. Who's taking 4 more
One
years of that?
one thing we got to understand in this podcast, my friend. He's no longer my guy. He doesn't
Once
wear
a
the
leaf,
blue and
always
white.
a leaf. He's an alumni.
He wears the jacket, but he does so in the back of the group, if you know what I mean.
Oh, Nick Hagman can still get into that alumni box, so you be careful there.
Yeah.
um, I I think it's a tough trade to pull off for sure. If not, I Gavrikov might be the addition for them that makes the most sense because he fits. He does fit what they need. He's kind of the David Savard of this year's trade deadline when he got flipped to Tampa.
Hmm.
And I think the one thing we got to remember though, I like Gavrikov. He's not, he's not a top two defenseman. Teams got to be careful what they give up for him, and I think
Hmm.
he's
I
gonna
agree with that.
he's gonna get more because there's nobody else. There's
Yeah.
Chychrun, it's a tricky deal. Only so many teams can make that deal happen. There's Carlson, that's even more difficult to pull off. Edmondson, who's a depth defenseman. Gavrikov, you mentioned Kulikov, who's even more depth defenseman. So there's only so many guys that are going to be moved, and Gavrikov just happens to be the best guy available and the easiest trade to make.
Yeah, fully agree. He's just kind of in that mid-range, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you're either overpaying for someone who's not as good or you're overpaying for someone who's all right, but still like you don't want to give up the farm. I understand that. You don't want to give up the farm for a guy like Gavrikov, Edmondson, Kulikov, but like they are additions and they would help some teams, I believe, fully and
Right.
truly. Like I am I'm watching Minnesota last night and I know they're just playing Florida, but I'm impressed by the compete level,
Mm-hmm.
the grittiness of the team, even in their back end. Like guys like John Merle and Middleton, yeah, they're depth guys, but I find they're very effective depth guys at what they can do, right?
Yeah, very. Yeah,
And
Middleton's one of my faves.
yeah, he's just I heard someone call him he's an '80s player. He's just got the stash. He's gritty. He wears the jock strap around the room. He's that kind of guy. So brings it.
Norm Nixon.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, Minnesota's interesting too because they're right on the fringe. And Dumba's another guy that's a UFA that I'm sure would be intriguing to a lot of teams.
Yeah, yeah, just a lack this year of production, I think, on his part,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously makes him less attractive. But if you can get him at a deal, then Minnesota's also sneaking into the playoffs, like you said. So it's like, how do we get rid of a guy? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's interesting because I like Dumba, but I don't love him. I never loved his game.
No.
I get it. He's got a scoring ability. He can be a good puck moving defenseman. But I mean, outside of that, I think that I'd like a Brodeen better if we were being honest. If I
Yeah, I
if
think Spurgeon covers up a lot of errors from Dumba. I
Yeah,
think Spurgeon's one of the more underrated defensemen in the league. He's very good.
yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players, a lot of teams that could improve. You look at New York made a move already. You had the Islanders who got Bo Horvat, and Bo Horvat's been good since getting traded there, but New York can't win. Montreal goes 2-0 over the weekend, beats the Islanders, beats Edmonton, two presumptive playoff teams. Pacific Division, Edmonton's roller coaster. Vegas is starting to win, even though every player seems to get injured every other day.
hmm
Seattle's losing games. Who do you have the most faith in the Pacific right now?
We mentioned them earlier, and I think it's the Kings. I
Yeah,
just, the Oilers lose in the last 10 games. They lose to Columbus and Montreal. The Vegas is too streaky for me. They win 3, 4 games, and they'll lose 4, 5 games. You know what I mean? So it's like, where's the consistency? Where's the consistency in that? Like, I don't know. Like to me, the Kings are attractive just because they're riding on Phoenix Copley, who if anyone doesn't know who Phoenix Copley is, I
he's
can't
not
blame
even
you.
in three. It's
He's
crazy.
he's a journeyman, and his record is 17-3-1.
Yeah.
Like this is not your standard like prospect slash maybe
No,
come out of nowhere. Like this guy solely just kind of said, "Yeah, I can get the job done better than you, Jonathan." So yeah, they're my team. Love the structure, like you said, Jacob Chychrun. If they can get him, that's attractive. I think he would be the deciding factor in a 7 game series against like an Edmonton.
I love watching LA play too. I know they're on late, but if you can't, they're a great team. If you can't sleep, throw on the LA Kings. They play a fun brand of hockey. Quentin
Yeah.
Byfield is getting better by the game too. He's playing with Anze Kopitar, which is really smart from Todd McClellan because there's nobody maybe in the entire league who just plays fundamentally better than Kopitar. He's just the IQ is through the roof. So LA's starting to get better. Adrian Kempe can't miss right now. Every shot he takes seemingly is going in.
Mm-hmm.
He's on an incredible run. Edmonton, yeah, I'd love to embrace them. I'd love to, but
They play like they did on Sunday.
or McDavid. I mean, come on. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, McDavid, Hyman, who's been unreal,
Yeah.
and Nugent
Great.
Hopkins has been really good too. But you got those three guys, and the rest of the team is just a pile of you know what. Not
Yeah.
Derek Ryan and Holloway and your boy Yessi Puliarvi, who Edmonton can't trade for a bag of used condoms right now. It's that bad. Like they might have to put him on waivers just to open up a roster spot at the deadline
Can't
to
blame them.
acquire a player because nobody will take him.
And how can you blame them?
No,
It's a classic case of we drafted this guy really high up. We
yeah,
drafted him top 5, and he just hasn't been able to do anything, and he hasn't been able to find it. And we gave him chance after chance after chance, and I think finally they're realizing, okay, we made a pretty grave mistake here in letting this guy
mm,
continue
yeah,
to play in our operation. So yeah, I mean, like you said, they could. I think they're gonna maybe use that money to get a D man, but like you just said, they also need help with depth. So I mean,
right.
who do you go and help? Who do you get? That is Max Domi an offer? Is that a guy attractive to you?
I think he'll be traded. He's having
Yeah.
he's on a brutal team as we know, but he's having
Oh
a
yeah.
pretty good year, and I like Max. He's going to compete. That's the one thing with him. He'll play. I
Mhm.
think Toronto kick tires
I
maybe.
thought that was interesting, right? Because like father played there, he'd
Yeah,
be interested. You got to think that he would be
I think
somewhat
he'd love
interested.
it. I think he'd embrace it. I think he'd embrace that third line role and own it.
Yeah, and he's a big personality, and they've got already big personalities in there. I think it would mesh really. I think it would mesh really well, but who knows? Maybe his father's maybe his father's whispering here. Oh, they don't.
That could be an
I want
Edmonton
this.
quiet ad too. I think that would be a player. They could take anybody. They're bottom six right now to help, and I think he would help them quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they could use. They're looking at the Elspeth Hawks, saying, yeah, we could acquire a guy from this team, and might be a little bit of help.
No, it's interesting. We'll talk next Tuesday, obviously, as we do every Tuesday. Better chance of being moved by next Tuesday, Chychrun or Gavrikov?
I'm going to say Gavrikov because it's less complex, and I think more teams are in on him. So I think it'd
Yeah.
be like, yep, okay, this is the best offer we got.
There's
Call
not
it.
a sub-zero chance that even though he's been going to be healthy scratch for 2 weeks, that Chychrun remains in Arizona at the trade deadline. And because it's Arizona, I wouldn't rule it out.
Isn't that awful?
It's awful, but it's the truth.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, it's
Because he's been on the deck for 2 years and he's still there.
yeah. If you're waiting for the right offer, it's not going to come. You know what I mean?
And
It's like
sometimes
you're
you
waiting.
just got to look and say, we're not going to get 2 first-round picks. Let's change our ask.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. If it came on the plate and they said a first round pick and Brant Clark,
I'm taking it.
I don't know
I'm
why you wouldn't
taking
take
it.
that.
Yeah, me too.
You're tanking. You want to tank for Bedard. This is the best way to do so. And we're getting I'm pretty sure he's going to be a top 4 defenseman in the league in Clark.
Mm-hmm. I think so. He's good. I like the cut of his jib, just so to speak. What about Velmelka in Arizona? Do you think they'd trade him, the goaltender? He's pretty good. He's a pretty
God,
good goaltender for a bad team.
I know. I've been saying this for a while. Like, I don't know why they would. I don't know what's helping keeping him there. I'm watching him last night play
You're
for the
not. You're Fred.
Preds.
Yeah, you're
Yeah, and I'm
Fred.
like, he's stopping every puck. Like, this is not good. Like, you need to either send him down or get him out of there. I don't know. There's too many teams that could use a goaltender right now, and I think with his contract, I think it's so attractive. A
Yeah.
team that I would really like to see get him, just because I don't feel like they've had good goaltending in quite some time, is Ottawa. Ottawa,
Mm.
he's on term. He's going to be there for another couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Make a move for a good goaltender. You haven't had one. You haven't had one since Craig Anderson. I can't think of another goaltender.
Chychrun Velmelka blockbuster.
That there you go. That way you're not. You're telling your fan base, for one, you're telling your fan base, you're also telling your future owners, yeah, we
Yep.
actually have something here worthwhile. Come and see us and are very far away.
And I'm also wondering, Shay, last night, and I had my third eye open, if you will, just thinking,
Okay.
is Ridley Gregg playing first line center last night because they want to audition him for different teams?
Yeah, I mean, I think he like why else? He's not a first line center. I mean,
No, no.
it's like it's DJ Smith slapping him on the back, say, "You got it, kid. You get in there and play your best." No,
Yeah,
like they want to showcase his ability. We've seen him a lot in the World Juniors the last couple of years. I mean, he's got some good things going on, but
solid player. Yeah,
I don't know if he's going to be a first line center. I mean, maybe I'm being too blunt by saying that. I see him more as a middle six guy, maybe even on the wing a little bit. He can play gritty if he needs to. But at the same time, if he's playing lots, obviously he's getting more opportunities to score, touch the puck,
right.
showcase some ability. So yeah, I mean you hit it right on the hammer.
I'd love to see a Ottawa blockbuster. A little Chychrun and Velmelka to Ottawa. That would be fun. That'd be a deadline just as nobody'd see that coming, and we could take credit for it.
Yeah, me too. Because I think it sets them up for next year.
Yeah. New
You
owners,
know,
like you said, we've been saying. I don't think either of them are going to stay. Something big doesn't happen. I think they're both gone by the start of next year.
yeah,
Ryan
yeah.
Reynolds is going to can both their asses.
Yeah. He walks in, shakes their hand. You're fired. You're fired. Thank you for your service. Get the hell out. Get the hell out. Right? Maybe does something crazy like rips the C off. I don't know.
Yeah, gives it to Claude Giroux.
You never know. I wouldn't be surprised.
We have not spoke since Kevin Durant was
Mm,
traded to the desert, and
there
before
we
that, we
go.
knew Kyrie Irving was traded to Dallas, but it didn't seem like Kevin Durant was going to be traded. He was going to embrace new players and things of that nature. You've had some time to sit on this. What are your thoughts about Kevin Durant going to the Suns and the aftermath it has on the rest of the league?
Well, I mean, I certainly think it's a good thing for Notorious having a cheap owner. I'm like, oh, there's no way. I mean, we've been talking about this since last year, right? I mean,
Hmm.
and he's had interest in going, but I never actually thought it would get done. So I was really shocked the first time it kind of came up. I think I was like half asleep when I read the message. Yeah, I think it's good. For one, it's good for the league to get some movement going around. You don't see a player like Kevin Durant ever traded. Kyrie Irving, that's a different story. I don't think Kyrie Irving's a identified superstar, future Hall of Famer.
Hmm.
Maybe, I guess, depends. Maybe down the road. Kevin Durant is that in every form
Yeah.
and fashion, and obviously you could argue he's the top 3 greatest scorers, greatest scoring ability to ever play the game.
Yep.
So you get that. But I just think it's great because you don't get to see him sweat it out in Brooklyn any longer. He's playing for a team that's competitive. He's going back to the West where he had so much success before. really a Western Conference that's so wide open. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the West being like it was always before it was the Golden States. Before Golden State, it was the Lakers. It was
Kind of
maybe
like 2011 to 2015
yeah,
West. You know what I
yeah.
mean? The Mavericks were in there, and then you had OKC, and it
Yeah,
kind of
a little
bounced every
dirt.
year.
Exactly, a little dirty rocket maybe once in a while. Like, but yeah. So now it feels like anyone can win. I feel like this is asserting themselves as saying we have a legit chance of getting to the finals. We have two unbelievable scorers in Booker and Durant. We have one of the best passers ever in the history of the game in Chris
Mhm.
Paul.
Yep.
I worry about depth, but at the same time, you do make a couple good little additions. I think Darius Baisley is an okay addition that they made. He's not the best player they could have gotten, but he's not that bad either. If anyone doesn't know him, he's a young player from OKC. He was doing some good things there over the course of the last 3 seasons. I think that Miguel Bridges is a really, really big loss.
Yep.
If I'm Brooklyn, I'm smiling because you get a player like that for the next 3, 4 seasons under contract.
Cheap too.
Yeah, and 20 million, but he's I think he's even worth more than that if we're being honest.
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, so I like it. Overall, it was a fair. I thought a fair trade on both sides. Just because Durant, obviously, he's long term. I think it's gonna really, really hurt Phoenix long term.
Right.
But ultimately, they're giving him a chance to win. They're giving Kevin Durant a chance to win, and I'm kind of riding on them now. We'll get to our top 5 list of each conference later, and I can maybe go into a little bit more depth on how I feel about the Phoenix Suns. But right now, I'm happy, and it's crazy that he goes there and kind of steals all the air out of the room from the Super Bowl, the waste
Yeah.
management. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's funny. It's funny that he's just bigger than life character that obviously everyone knows, everyone hears about, and yeah, you just got to be aware of what he's doing.
My big worry for them, Shay, is health. 'Cause Chris Paul's always
Yeah,
hurt. Kevin Durant's always hurt. Devin
Booker's hurt
Booker
too.
hurts all the. Yeah, he's hurt all the time too.
Yeah,
So that's my big concern with them. But I mean, if they're healthy, I mean, like you said, Chris Paul. But let's go. We'll pivot back to the East because I want to talk about your Celtics, and they got a really good game on tap tonight, which is on
Mhm.
TSN with the Bucks. But let's go with the West. We'll go 5-1. We'll kind of name our top 5 teams in the West, and it's a lot of projection. I found it very hard to do because
Me too. Me too. In the
well,
Western Conference, anyways.
West
Not
is
not.
tough because I don't know how good they're going to be because we
Yeah,
haven't seen them play. But I wanted to do this exercise now, and we'll do it throughout the year. So, who's the 5th best team in the West to you right now?
the 5th best team is to me is the one Memphis Grizzlies.
Mm,
They're on this list for me, but they're barely on this list.
yeah,
I won't reveal anything, but there was another team that was pretty close on there, and people are probably saying, well, they're second. They're second in the West. What do you mean that? The Memphis Grizzlies have had such a poor drop off over the last 10, 15 games where they've been so self consumed on having this ego and trying to be something that they're not and
bullies.
bullies, yeah, essentially, and they're losing their game. And on top of that, they made a really good addition in Luke Kennard, who's a good little shooter. I won't diss him in any matter, but did they do enough to improve? To the Suns, to the Nuggets, to all these teams? No. So yeah, they're further down for me. And if they get into a funk like this leading into the playoffs, I mean, you can write off this you know historic run, best in the West. John Morant may say.
I hated their deadline. They didn't do enough. Maybe it's because Masai Ujiri could have screwed them because apparently he didn't want to trade anybody because he's got the perfect squad up there in Toronto. Barely beat the Pistons, but he wouldn't part with anybody and got Jakob Pertl. But yeah, I watched a lot of that game against your Celtics Sunday afternoon on ABC. It's not even close, those 2 teams. Your Celtics would mop the floor. I think they beat Memphis in 5 games. They played a playoff series. I really, because Jaw, I love him, but he can't shoot. I mean, just let him go in the paint. But I mean, if you keep him outside, he's not going to make shots.
No, not consistently. Consistently, anyways.
Yeah, and there's
Yeah.
a lot of your Celtics. I mean, Derek White's all of a sudden a great shooter. He's found it
Yeah.
this year. He's been really good. So
Al
I'm proud of
Horford's been
him
good.
and Antonio Pride there. I'll start off by saying I don't have Memphis on this list,
Okay, that's
and
fair.
and
That's
I don't have Golden State either.
I don't have Golden State on my list.
And it hurt me because I feel like I'm gonna regret it because
Okay.
they'll find. But I want to start with that. 5, I have Dallas,
Okay.
and
That was my 5. That was my other team I was messing with.
yeah, I can't have them any higher than 5 because just the Kyrie Irving of it all. I don't want to seem like an idiot, and I know the way this story goes. Adam and Eve don't go eat the apple. Don't do it. But Kyrie Irving will have a political person that wins a race or something will happen and they'll ban guns because of the Michigan State shooting and he'll be upset about it and go to a protest and miss a game in Minnesota. And both of them played great last night, their second game together, but their 2 games playing together, they are 0-2. And Anthony, my Ant Edwards, my guy, played well last night, but Minnesota beat them. Sacktown beat them in overtime on Saturday nights. I do think they're playing well together, but I can't put them any higher than this yet because I don't trust anything that involves Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. No, that's why they're not on my list. It's strange because I think both players have a clutch gene. And
Yes.
I find with the last couple of games, they just haven't, whether it's the last possession of the game, they have a chance to get a 3 to tie it. They maybe have a chance to win the game. And there's no clutch gene like there normally is for each of those guys. So still trying to figure it out. And I just look at the rest of the team. There's just such a drop off. I mean, you have those 2 guys, Christian Woods hovering around in the middle somewhere. You can give you 25, 20 points. And then it's like, okay, we don't really have anything else. And they didn't really, I mean, so maybe you can answer this. Were their hands tied now that they gave up all those picks and those 2 players to make another move?
Yeah, it might have been because unless there was like a buyout guy that could have, tried to lure in, right? Like unless they got like a Reggie Jackson who was bought out from Charlotte to get off the bench, or you're not going to go get Westbrook. That's a cataclysmic shock there. But there
D-Rose
was
maybe.
D-Rose. The Knicks still haven't bought him out. My guy, let him go. Let him be free. Let him go somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think they were kind of like you said, Phoenix, Dallas, like you're banking on your best players to win. Where I think like teams like the Celtics, Bucks to an extent, they kind of rely on the entire team to be great with great players alongside them, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So my 4th team, our guys, Sack Kings.
Oh, we're right lockstep. Sacktown, baby. Yes.
Yeah. The very team that beats the Irving Luka combination. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. They're just steady Eddies. They haven't fallen off to an extent of the Grizzlies. They haven't, it's not like they're winning 10 games in a row, but they're not also losing 5 games in a row. They just kind of there. They beat the right teams and they're doing great things. No one talks about them enough, which bothers me because, I mean, they've just been irrelevant for the last 20 years and now they're finally here. And it's like,
right.
Well, we got nothing to say about this team. Probably because they play in the same state as someone who's very low on the totem pole, the LA Lakers. So, yeah, interesting.
The Lakers, my God.
Yeah, that's a whole other. That could be a whole podcast. We could get into that. But yeah, no. So Sack Kings, they're 4th on my list, and they honestly could have been 3rd. I mean, they're 3rd in their conference. They're 3rd in their conference right now. They're playing well. De'Aaron Fox is good. They have a good young team there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, this is kind of the turning point that they've needed, and they've waited for so long.
This is the team, they make the playoffs this year. Maybe they win around. The West is tougher. It'll be tougher for them to do it, certainly. But home court does help if they can be consistently good after the All-Star break.
Mm-hmm.
But they're a team that in the summer when a superstar or a good player is sick of their situation because they're losing, and you know how the NBA goes, they have a lot of draft picks and talent to trade to get that good player on their team.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're like Toronto in a sense. No free agents going to Toronto, but if you can trade a guy to come there,
yes,
you'll have some. And you're absolutely right. Enough assets to make a big move like that.
Who's number 3?
Did you give a 4 or was that your 4?
Same as you,
Oh,
Sacramento.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
My number 3 is the Los Angeles Clippers. Eh, Everyone's gonna say, well, they're just barely over 500. Why the hell would you say that? The Clippers really all season, or for much more of that, haven't fully been healthy. Feels
Yep.
like, well, either Kawhi's either out because he wants to be out or out because he's actually hurt. But now
Right.
he's on the floor more. I
Yeah.
think yeah, they've made some really really good moves. At first, I was very skeptical when I saw the names leaving, the Jacksons,
Hmm.
the Kennards. I'm like, oh, those are good players. And what are they doing? But then I'm like, okay, they got Bones Nyland from Denver. Okay, he's a good player. Oh, they got Mason Plumlee, who I said would be traded last week. He's a nice little backup center.
Hmm.
And they got Eric Gordon, who people like. I forgot Eric Gordon was in this league because he's in Houston so long. I understand that. That's fair. And Eric Gordon probably won't do a ton off the bench, but he's still there, and he's still
He'll
been a
have a
former.
game. He'll have
He'll
a
have a
game.
game or two. He'll be like, oh, okay, he gets threes. And honestly, they still have great guys on the bench, and they still have a really productive, starting front with Terrence Mann, George, Kawhi,
Batum.
Zubac,
Yeah.
whoever else. Nick Batum comes off the bench. He doesn't do a ton, but he can do different things, which I enjoy. So I just like the complexity of the team. I think it's good. Norman Powell, who we didn't even name,
Mm.
they just have a lot going on, and I think if they get into a gritty playoff series, I would much rather have their bench than probably more other teams in the West.
They got size. They got really good wings.
Yeah.
And I love having as many wings as they do. I like both their centers, as you mentioned. They got 2 starting centers on their team,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
is nice. That's a luxury. Zubac was playing too many minutes too, so he needed to get some help for him. He's playing like 35 minutes a night, which
Yeah. He was going to
is
get
like
hurt.
it's like 3 Rob Williams games. So it's had to throw that in there.
It's good. It's a good
Um,
job.
yeah, it's a couple of Jakob games too, quite frankly. But I like their team. I had them at 3 as well, and maybe it's because we just expect them to be better. Come playoff time, there'll be trouble for somebody if they can get the right matchup. They get into a second round, and then maybe they get a Phoenix or they get a Dallas, and they're a lot deeper than Dallas. If they played Dallas in a series, I think they'd have a good chance of winning it because Kawhi can guard Irving and George can guard Luka for much of the series, and it can be a long series for them, but also a long series for Luka and for Kyrie, just with 2 really really good defenders on them for the 7-game stretch.
Remind me, they didn't have Kawhi last offseason, but
No,
did they lose? Who did they lose to in the first round? Was it
did
they lose to Memphis? Was it
did
Dallas? I
they
can't
lose to
remember.
Dallas? I think it was Dallas
Oh, okay. So yeah,
because
that's
then Dallas beat Phoenix. I think Dallas
okay.
might have beat them in 6 or 7 games if I remember correctly.
Okay. No, I thought so. I know they made the playoffs without Kawhi. I just couldn't remember what the depth was there. So this is where it gets interesting. We both have this. I'm assuming we both have the same 2 top teams. It's where we rank them.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Suns at number 2,
As
and
do I.
the Nuggets at number 1.
Yeah.
I'll explain my reasoning. You can maybe add in, or you can maybe you
Yeah.
have something totally different. I just haven't seen enough of the Suns, and I don't know if I trust the pieces together like I trust the Nuggets. I'm watching the Nuggets last night against Miami.
Yeah.
They're a cohesive group. They play well together. I didn't. There was one starter I had never heard of. He's European.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yeah. Conchar. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's playing excellent with
Luka.
Jokic.
Jokic. Yeah.
It's just very thorough. I mean, and they didn't win a lot. They didn't win by 20, but they just had the stones to do the right things at the end of the game. I just love Bruce Brown. I love what he brings to that team. I think KCP was a really nice pickup this last offseason. He's pretty near started every game that he's played.
And when Jamal is playing, he's starting to look like Jamal
Yes.
pre-ACL.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just about keeping him healthy. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you want when it comes down the stretch, I think they'd rather load management him, keep him a little healthier coming into the playoffs because they're going to need him, obviously.
And they got a good lead in the West
And
because
they have
Memphis.
yes, exactly. They have their 40 wins in. They picked up Thomas Bryant, who people will be like, it's not that, it's an interesting pickup, but it's helping. It's better than DeAndre Jordan, who's their backup center right now,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So you're upgrading that position. There's some good guys coming off the bench. I think Jeff Green, surprisingly at 35, has still been semi-productive, I think, in his career. So yeah, they're above, and I just haven't seen enough of the Suns. I feel like the Suns are gonna start to come alive here, but being healthy and how their bench operates is just such a mystery to me that I can't keep them up there. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Jokic is the best player in the NBA to me,
Yes, yeah,
and they didn't have Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray last night, and they beat the Miami Heat, who they play a boring brand of basketball, but they win. They're starting to
yeah,
look like the Heat of old, and I think they kind of feel better about themselves because the East is so wide open.
hmm,
Other, of the two top teams we both agree on, but other than that, I mean, you could get to a second round. You take your chances. I mean, the Heat took the Celtics to 7 last year, so you never know.
hmm,
But yeah, I mean, Jokic is such a factor. Aaron Gordon plays so well with Jokic, like better than I think even they could have drew it up. Jamal Murray, if he can get back to where he was, he is so damn good. Porter Jr. is a good player, like you said. Bruce Brown, he was huge on a Brooklyn team that had no business being as good as they were, quite frankly, minus Kyrie Irving. So I just think Denver's too deep. And Phoenix added Durant, but do you have enough time with injuries to all these players and with load management the way it is now in the NBA to get enough cohesion to beat a team that's been together the entire year? And I'm
hmm,
not I'm not sold that Phoenix has enough time to do that.
yeah. No, absolutely. It's like what like if realistically is Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Chris Paul going to play 15 games? Would you say yes or no? There's like
No,
30, maybe a little less than 30.
no.
So I don't know how they're good players. They're all veterans. They've done this before.
Mhm.
I just don't know if that's even that's enough time just to kind of say like, okay, I understand who's taking the last shot at the game. I'm going to be the scoring threat for number one. Booker, you're going to be number two. It's just there's a lot of variables to come out, and I realize that they're all veterans. They all chat together, I'm sure, but still, it's about playing together and seeing how you can devise a plan to win.
If you're Phoenix, would you look at Derrick Rose as if he does get bought out to bring in as just a backup point guard? Because I still don't think they have a decent guy behind Chris Paul to take minutes away from him.
Yeah, I mean, he Rose wouldn't be my first option
Mhm.
because, but if
Reggie Jackson would have been better, but I think he went somewhere else. He signed somewhere. I forget.
hopefully with a contender, I like Reggie Jackson.
Yeah, I think so. I looked that up.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously Reggie Jackson would be the first guy you'd want to obviously pick up as quickly as possible, but no, yeah, I feel that Derrick Rose would be a better ad than what they've coming on. So I'm thinking about their bench. I'm thinking about Cameron Payne, obviously.
Hmm.
They lost Cam Johnson, but they still have who's oh god, I can see his face too. They have a decent
Torrey Craig.
Torrey Craig's not bad. Yeah, he's a good player. He's had a pretty
Hmm.
formidable year, I'd say. Like I said, they picked up Darius Baisley.
Hmm.
Um,
Still got Bismack.
was kind of hoping he was coming our way, but I guess that wasn't going to happen.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
yeah, so they still have pieces, and yeah. So I would say overall to answer your question, yes, I guess Derrick Rose would not be a bad ad. That way,
Hmm.
if you have so many injuries, at least maybe someone's scoring once in a while.
Right. Yeah, the West is fascinating because you get just a few days for the All Star break, and then most teams after only have about 25 games left to play. So it's really the home stretch until you get to the postseason for all these teams just to try to figure it out
Mhm.
and be
Who's the
healthy.
biggest Who's the biggest winner in the West when it comes to the trades? Maybe besides the Suns, who I guess we can.
Besides the Suns, hmm, I'll say the Clippers.
Yeah, me too. That's what I've written down.
I don't like losing Reggie Jackson though, but I would say the Clippers because I think they worked around the edges and they got better.
Yeah.
They did get better, and Dallas, I'm not giving them that much credit.
No, no,
No.
no
So
flame out.
the Clips, yeah, I'll say the Clips.
Okay.
Let's
Yeah.
do the East now, which it's interesting because the top two teams are so good, and they play each other tonight in Milwaukee. It's in Milwaukee.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 days before the All Star break, they play each other. I think they're a game apart in the standings too, which is always fascinating as well. So that should be fun tonight. Let's go 5-1 in the East. How was this a tough exercise for you?
Only the last team I would say, because I'm like, okay, I have my two top teams. I have
Yep.
two, okay, and at least I'm like, okay, I can see these two teams being in here as well. It was really the last team, and it really came down to one and two. And I had to pick this one just because I felt like they had a better deadline. They've really impressed me this year with not only just coaching, but I think the major addition they made in the offseason. So the New York Knicks are my fifth best team in the Eastern Conference. I think Brunson's played unbelievable. He dropped 40 last night. He's been everything that they've needed and more. RJ Barrett can be a good player. I'm not dissing him, but obviously we mentioned it last week and we mentioned it before. Him and Thibodeau him and his coach do not get along. I hate's a strong word. I don't like to throw that out there, but if they were maybe alone in a room together, I'd say there would be some exchanges of words. And Josh Hart coming over from Portland, I think was a really good ad. Josh Hart can be a really, really good player. You saw it last night. He dropped nearly 30 points coming off the bench. I don't know what it was with Portland this year. They're just a weird team that never found it overall. But he's a good player. I've liked him since he played in LA. Really happy that he can be a good sixth man on this squad.
Do you know who got Reggie Jackson? I just found out.
West or East?
West. Good team.
Denver?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Hey, it makes sense for him too. He's getting bought out and he's going to go play for one of the better teams. So
yeah,
I guess that makes sense why we still have the Nuggets as our number one team.
Yeah, that makes I was gonna put the Knicks 5, and I wanted to because I kind of like the Knicks for some reason. Josh Hart, I agree with you. I watched some of that game last night with Brooklyn, and they look good. Brunson, I'd rather have Brunson than Kyrie Irving. I'll tell you that. So that there's a first mistake for the Dallas Mavericks. But he's playing unreal. Stop giving the ball to Julius Randle in the last minute and a half of the game, and you'll start winning some more. But I put the Heat 5 instead of the Knicks because I've just seen the Heat win in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And they're a boring team to watch. Jimmy Butler, dribble, get to the paint, foul, make both free throws. It's very Pat Riley-esque basketball, very Showtime Lakers, if you will, back in the day. But it works for them. I think they're starting to play better basketball. They did lose last night, but they're without some pieces. A lot of teams are sitting out players before the All-Star break here. It's pretty thin in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
But I think they get to the playoffs, they'll have a good chance of winning a playoff series. And I would favor them over a series against the Knicks, just on experience alone.
I understand that. I don't fully agree, but I understand.
Yeah. I don't really agree with myself, but I had to pick
Jimmy, shout out Jimmy though. That was a hell of a game. I think he had nearly a triple double, 25 points.
Him and Jokic are going back and forth. It was fun.
Yeah, could be an interesting. That'd be. Never mind. That would be a boring finals.
That would be boring. Yeah.
Number 4 for me, a team that you don't find very high on, but I got them at 4, the 7-6. I love this team. I kind of a little scared of this team.
I know
because they have Joel.
That's it.
He can be shit. He can be shut down. Harden does some things out there though. He's out there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm bullish on this team because if Tyrese Maxey can get back to where he once was, they have a legit nice little guard combo with him and Harden. And I think Niang, they got is it McDaniels? Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
They picked up McDaniels in trade. He's not a bad player. He's a good depth player in my mind. I just think that this team's got a compete level. They play with that Philly chip. Philadelphia's had such a tough year when it comes to sports,
Yeah.
with a couple of their teams losing, that I think a lot relies on them. But at the same time, I don't know. There's something about this team this year that feels different in my mind. And I don't know. I could see something happening. I think they'll lock up a fourth seed,
Mhm.
and I think they will get past the first round like they did last year. And I think whoever they face will probably have a harder time than maybe most people would expect.
I got them 4 as well. And yeah, I mean, Embiid's the thing. I mean, Embiid's one of the you know top 5, 10 best players in the league.
Yeah,
He's
five, I want.
practically unguardable.
Mm-hmm.
He's MVP runner up the last 2 years to Nikola Jokic. I liked Thibault. They gave up on him, and again, their coach is incompetent, and that worries me. But
Lock.
well, he's losing his voice talking.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that, low impression, Doc Rivers. It's like an old dog on the porch. But but I like their team. They're a fun team to watch. I will say that because they give
Mhm.
up a ton of points. Normally, they play no defense,
Yeah, that's
especially
why.
when my guy Maxi's on the floor. But
Mhm.
yeah, they'll find a way to screw it up. They're kind of like the Clippers in that mode where you're like, this team's not gonna win. Like, why am I talking myself into this? They'll
Yeah,
they'll screw it up. So I like them. I love Embiid, but again, I don't trust him to be on the floor in the playoffs either.
fair. Yeah, fair. He's got ability is the best, or availability is the best ability.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, no, absolutely. And then just a note, Thibault too, missing, huge loss. He doesn't do a ton offensively, but I think he can be a really good defensive player. I was really happy that Portland picked him up because they need help in that department. I think after losing a guy like Robert Covington.
Right.
I'm assuming we both had the Cavs at number 3.
Yep.
I'd be shocked if otherwise. No, little to say here, but just another stellar season. I think their GM and their coach are just doing the right things, getting this team in the right place. Again, kind of like Sacktown, no one talks about them. No one talks about how great they are. Jared Allen, Mobley, just this two dueling mega figures that just come out of nowhere. Love watching Jared Allen play. He's just so exciting. He's got that big
Mm.
throw. It's just some throwback basketball when I watch him because yeah, he just does a lot of really really good things. Mitchell, Darius Garland, not much to say here. It's a solid team all around. They didn't do a ton in the trade department, which
Mm.
bothers me. I don't know if
Right.
you saw someone they could have picked up.
Yeah, they could have got another wing for sure.
Right.
I think they could use another 3 on their team. They did get Danny Green in the buyout market, but again, he's a depth piece that's going to play 7 to 10 minutes a night, if that.
Maybe.
Yeah, yeah, maybe. But they, I think that they can win a round for sure. I just don't
Mhm.
know if they could. I don't see them beating the Celtics or the Bucks. So I
Yeah.
think they'll be looking around saying, "How can we get to that next level?"
He's probably going to get re-signed, but I really would have liked to see a Cali Oubre Jr. go there. Someone
Mm,
who can spread the
mhm.
floor a little bit. He's
Right.
athletic, and he's obviously be a rental, but at the same time he'd be good. But I trust the system they got there. Obviously, they're like I said, they're doing good things. They've added good pieces, and they seem to be coached really well. Can't really blame them if they thought their team was at least good enough to make the playoffs and maybe do some damage.
Would you rather play the Sixers or the Cavs in a series as a Celtics fan?
I think I think would probably like to see the Sixers just a little bit more, just because I think past Embiid, you're right. You mean it's a broken defensive system where Boston is just structurally so found. I think with their D and the way they spread the floor. I mean, it's crazy to think like if it's not Tatum, oh he's passing to Hauser. Okay, it's going to White now. Oh Al
Mhm.
Horford's there. Grant Williams is in the corner. It really does feel like at any time someone could make a 3-pointer on the team, and I could just see the 76ers just falling over themselves trying to defend that.
Right. So are the Celtics one for you or the Bucks?
Is this a question?
Well, I mean, there's a right answer and there's a wrong one. So
You feel, I know how you feel. I know how you feel. It's okay.
it's fine.
We both say it right here. The Bucks are not my top team. I still have the
Right.
Celtics at top. It's just because they've been playing decent. They haven't been playing great of late. I'm fair to admit that, but they've been playing decent with a pretty broken roster. And a lot is going to come down to you know health and defense in the playoffs. And when I think about them going long, I think they can outstand the Bucks again. You feel differently? I'd love to hear your interpretation of that.
I like the Middleton piece off the bench for the Bucks. I think
Yes, because he's not a starter anymore.
yeah, which I'm cool with because he's a dangerous player when he's on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Operative word there. He's another street clothes. But I'm rolling with the Bucks because in the history of the NBA, 9 times out of 10, the team with the best player is going to win the series. And obviously the Celtics did win last year,
Mm-hmm.
but Giannis was playing by himself practically, and he didn't really have a whole lot of help. And the fact that series went 7 to me tells you how good Giannis is because they won
Oh, yeah.
Game 5 in Boston, and that was a pretty miraculous win in and of itself. I agree with you. I watched the Celtics; they're really good. Derek White's playing unreal. Hauser, I mean, they got so many white guys that can shoot. I mean, it's almost a white man can't jump. Woody Harrelson would be proud,
Yeah.
but it's they're very very good. I think they got more depth, but I think Milwaukee with the Holiday piece in Giannis, I think is a better overall pairing than Tatum and Brown.
I disagree, but I
Got to
respect your
play the
opinion.
game.
When it came down to it, Holiday that game 6, Holiday made that steal against Marcus Smart, and
Hmm.
I shattered every fiber in me that was enjoying that moment. Um, yeah, no, it's tough. It's going to be neck and neck. I think all the way to the end of the season. I'm excited to watch both of these teams play tonight.
Hmm.
I guess I have Valentine's Day. Shit, I kind of forgot about
What's
that.
the plans tonight, V-Day?
Loki. If I haven't said it already, going to TO not this weekend, but the weekend after. So spend some cash there. I was every typical male in planet Earth today and rushing at my lunch hour to grab chocolates and flowers and all that
Right.
garbage. But hopefully it'll be worth it, and hopefully everything is happy in this world. So yeah, no. Hopefully that's enough to get me to watch at least some. I'd like to watch a half. I'd love to watch the full thing, but a half would satisfy.
Right. So do you have to put in a shift tonight and like watch a bad romantic comedy, or is
Yes.
that
Yep.
yeah?
That's a minimum for sure, Captain.
It's too bad Cocaine Bear hasn't come out yet.
I don't. Is that a is that passed as a rom com? I'm kind of
No, no, but I'm just
maybe I
I
could have
agree.
tricked her.
Probably a family movie. Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, family. Yeah, I got Casey in the comments now. Happy to see the ball and chain let Shay jump on the pod today.
True. Thank you, Kennedy. Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Thank you, Kennedy. Thank you, Kennedy. Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully I'll be seeing both of you this weekend when I make I won't say debut, my return to BLMS court, the hardwood for,
When is that, by the way? When is that?
that's
When
a
the big?
Friday at 7. Tell your friends, tell your family. The one and only number 11 will make a return for once and good. I'm not coming back. This will
You're
be my
coming
one.
home for the weekend.
Coming home for Friday, Saturday, and then leaving Sunday morning. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, for the long. I know this is your favorite long weekend.
Oh yeah,
Family day.
it's the best.
You
I
got
only see I only see my family every day.
you went from having the Super Bowl slash weight waist stomping management to going to the NBA All Star Game and Family Day. How does that make you feel? It's kind of
Yeah,
ironic.
we can't have everything in life, my friend.
Yeah.
Luckily, in a couple weeks, we got UFC 285, which I
Yes.
still think I'll be watching that with you. That was the
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah.
and I think that's the day after the NHL trade deadline, so we'll have lots to chat about. We'll be watching John Jones get back into the octagon, so that'll be fun.
Hmm.
But Tiger Woods is playing this weekend at the
Genesis.
Genesis. So,
Yeah. Let's go, Tiger.
God for golf. Thank God for golf. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, yeah. If only Charlie could play too. That was my only
So
ask.
I prefer to see Charlie play.
Yeah, he's gonna be a whippersnapper. Let's just get that
Yeah.
off the board.
Chip off the old block.
If I could put a future on Charlie winning a major right now, I put my house on it, no problem.
Yeah, I cashed a future yesterday. It was a good day.
Wait, let me guess. Scotty Scheffler to win the waste
No,
management.
Chiefs.
Oh,
Put
okay.
that in July.
Smart man. You and
Yeah.
Travis Kelce were the only two people who thought that they could get it done. I guess.
Yeah, that was a bit much from
Yeah.
Kels.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of like, really, like, are that many people doubting you? I think you've been one of the better teams in the league
Yeah.
for the last 5
You got
years.
the best player in the league.
He probably heard one person go, "Yeah, they're not going to win," and he just in his
Right.
mind the rest of the year.
What'd you think of Rihanna?
Not my favorite halftime show. It was good. Not my favorite though.
Right.
I mean, when it kind of came out that she was pregnant, it was kind of like,
Yeah, I didn't know if she was. I was kind of.
it was confirmed. She's
Okay.
like, I don't know, 3 months, maybe 2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
Because she's limited. Like she had the waddle going, but she wasn't like boogieing, dancing, and I mean, obviously she can't. So I'm not gonna discriminate against that. But yeah, no, not my favorite.
I knew every song, so I was happy about that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and it was just kind of like one long song. It felt like everything just kind of ran together, which was
Right.
nice. But I think we've been kind of spoiled, I guess, in the last, I'd say, 3-4 Super Bowl halftime performances.
If you had to put a future on who performs next year, who would you put it on? If you say Jack Harlow, I can't have you on again.
I'm going to say someone even worse than Jack Harlow than you. I'd say Drake probably makes his first halftime performance.
It's gonna happen eventually. I have to.
It's gonna happen. Yeah, it's just there, right? It's kind of like
he might decline though because they picked The Weeknd over him, which is a bit of a candidate.
Yeah, but it could be like, hey, like I want to compete, like, you know what I mean? Like I think I can do it better than you can. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he takes it the wrong way, but I feel like in the world of being an up and coming artist or maybe a professional artist, I feel like that's kind of like the omega. Like, yeah, I performed that. You know what I mean? Like all the greatest performers kind of have. The game itself was entertaining, though. I was thoroughly enjoyed that. Even, some say, oh, we got robbed of a perfect ending. Well, I'd say it was 99% of it was great. I'm not really care that the last 1% was maybe not what everyone expected. Yeah, maybe selfishly I would have liked to see it to go overtime. Happy for the way it was. I'm going to need whatever Patrick Mahomes got in halftime when I maybe blow an ACL this weekend when I'm going up and down the court.
If I can make it to that game, I'll bring the Toradol with me.
Thank you. Might need it. Get a little break at halftime. I get a little shot in the leg.
Well, thank you for the time today, as always, and happy Valentine's to you and Kennedy.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you this weekend as you make your return to the court.
Yes, 7:00 Friday. I will. I'll be there.
I'll try to bring Casey with me. Maybe we'll come out and support you Friday night.
Yes, yeah, it's okay. So I told him this weekend I was going to see him one way or another. So if it's not Friday night, I'm going to try and visit him Saturday and see the pad and see the dog. I'm going to see little Lynx.
Yes. Well, have fun tonight, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, buddy.
Enjoy the game tonight. Thanks, pal.
You too. Go Celtics. Thank you to Shamus for joining as he does every Tuesday. Always great to chat with him, and I kind of forgot it was Valentine's Day, so good of him to spend some time with me when he could be spending time with a significant other. But that's the kind of guy Shamus is, so good for him. Lots covered today. Lots of NBA, lots of NHL chat. We'll be back tomorrow. Didn't get into the NFL news today, but I'll do that tomorrow. I'll get some head coaching vacancies that were shored up, so we'll talk about that. Get into the games this evening, Celtics, Bucks, as we've broke down here on the show. Tampa Bay's in Colorado tonight in the NHL. That should be fun. Seattle, Winnipeg, another game to keep your eye on. Also, meeting with the media today. Chicago's in Montreal. They're also in Toronto tomorrow. So Taves rolling through, Kane's rolling through. How many do they end up staying in Chicago? Is there moves that are made? Players are being held out of the lineup. So lots to be decided, lots to be done in the next 2.5 weeks for these NHL teams before they're locked up, before they have to decide what they want to do moving forward. And that includes the Leafs when it comes to Jake Muzzin. Is he going to be able to play? Are they going to release his medical report? So that shoe still has to drop. It's going to be February 15th tomorrow. I mean, the month's half over. So business will be coming fast and furious. So enjoy the evening. We'll be back to you same time tomorrow here on To The Point.